Yay! Guys, I passed my 5-month anniversary, my 5-month post-transplant birthday, whatever you want to call it, was the other day. So I am now 5 months old. Yay! Have to excuse me, guys. I'm still recovering from a cold that I had last week. This is the first cold that I have had in like 5 or 6 years, I want to say. My little baby 5-month-old immune system couldn't fight it off, so I got a cold, but it's all good. I'm recovering and whatnot. So okay, for today's vlog, I kind of wanted to talk about mental health and cancer diagnosis. I kind of just felt like this is something I wanted to talk about because, I work semi in the mental health field. I work with people who have mental disorders, and also I'm a master's student and I'm studying these mental disorders. So it's everyday life for me, and I felt like it was important to just talk about these things. And, there's such a stigma associated with mental health, which is a daggone shame. But, maybe, talking about it and just letting people know that they are not alone in what they experience, it might help with the stigma. So, also just to kind of like raise awareness to some things that cancer patients are going through in addition to their actual cancer. So, I made a list of some disorders that I personally experienced, and then some disorders that I just could see how people could easily experience them. Some of the disorders I noticed were, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, insomnia or hypersomnia, pain, which is not necessarily a mental disorder, but pain can cause a lot of problems in someone's life, and definitely, unfortunately, a lot of cancer patients experience pain. Self-esteem issues, things like that are just a couple of the disorders and symptoms that I noticed, as possibilities for people going through these cancer treatments. Luckily, I'm really fortunate that my cancer experience was relatively short. I was diagnosed in the middle of May. By the beginning of June, I was in remission. By September, I had my bone marrow transplant, and now here it is, the end part of February, and I am now 5 months out from my transplant. So it's been less than a year, and I, went from having active cancer to now being in remission since June. So luckily, I did not have to fight this disease for an extended period of time. But there are some people who fight cancer for years, for decades, for a long time, and that's just absolutely unbelievable. And it's sad that they have to fight cancer for so long, but cancer is it's a horrible, terrible, life-changing, life-destroying disease. But unfortunately, it's so common in our world. But I digress. I'll get back to the mental disorders here now, I promise. I made some notes. I looked up these disorders in the DSM-5 and kind of pulled some of the criteria out of the DSM to kind of talk about. And again, a couple of these are things I personally experienced, and I'll just, I'll give full disclosure and kind of talk about, what specifically I was feeling with these disorders. But that's just me. Not everyone may experience these things, and people may experience them differently, yada yada yada. But the first one that probably came about was just anxiety. major feelings of anxiety, kind of leading up to diagnosis. You know something is wrong in your body, but you don't know what it is. You kind of feel like, oh my goodness, I caused something to be wrong in my body. I did this. What did I do? How do I fix it? It's not a good feeling, and it's kind of sad looking back, thinking about, trying to figure out how I could fix this unknown thing that was wreaking havoc in my body. I was trying to take vitamins and trying to eat healthy and drink more water and whatnot, thinking that I could correct this issue, not knowing that it was cancer. And then, once you find out that you have cancer, it's just a massive holy crap moment. I don't know how else to put it, but it's just like, oh my goodness, I have cancer, and just immediately thinking I'm gonna die, immediately not knowing what's gonna happen, with your life, basically. Not knowing what's gonna happen with your life, not knowing what's gonna happen with your friend's life and your family's life, and just everyone around you, is affected by this disease. And it's just, that burden of all of that kind of just hits you. And just, I don't know how to really put it into words eloquently, but basically cancer equals anxiety. I don't know how else to put it. Just everything is anxiety provoking. I can see how some people may develop phobias, maybe phobias with needles, phobias with germs, because we're so protected. We have to be so protected from germs and keep ourselves clean and whatnot, because these germs and even, people, like being out in public and things like that, can make us really sick. So I can definitely see how some people can maybe develop maybe even OCD tendencies with, washing their hands, washing the house, washing clothes, whatnot, just to, keep these germs away, because it's so ingrained in us as cancer patients that germs they're potentially deadly. So, it's a big deal. I can see how people may develop phobias for several things. I don't think I have a full-blown phobia, but definitely, like I mentioned in a previous video, I really hate having my port access, and it's, like I said, I don't think it's a phobia, but it's just something that really bothers me for sure. And so, and every time leading up to it, I get really bad anxiety just thinking about it, and I have to, calm myself down so that they can do their thing. I can see for sure how people may have panic attacks, at certain points throughout treatment. Like I mentioned in a previous video, whenever I found out that I was going to be discharged from my first hospital stay, I had a panic attack. I was freaking out big time about being allowed out of the hospital and being out on my own, being vulnerable and just not knowing what's going to happen. Anxiety is totally just fear of the unknown. And it's a real thing, and it's very, very, it's very real. I don't know how else to put it, but it's definitely, panic attacks can absolutely crop up, at any time, I'm sure, throughout all of this. And of course, just excessive worrying, worrying about everything, whether it be how am I going to feel in a little bit, how am I going to feel tomorrow, how is my family handling all this, how is my friends handling all of this, what's going to happen after this chemo ends, am I going to be in remission, is my cancer going to spread, am I going to need radiation, am I going to need surgery, am I going to find a donor, blah, 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 so on and so forth. It can just go on endlessly. just worrying about everything, you know, it's just, it's, I don't know. I hate to to be one. I don't like to personally complain about my symptoms and to really talk about things that I experience. I kind of just keep things to myself. So I hate to, like, it's hard for me to verbalize these things, but I'm trying here. I'm trying to, you know, like I said, I'm trying to raise awareness and whatnot for these symptoms, because, you know, mental health, it's one that people struggle to understand because it's not something that you can necessarily see. You know, like, for example, like with cancer, if someone has a tumor, you can see that tumor, and it's so it's obvious, and it's, you know, obvious that it's causing major troubles in your body. But with mental health, you know, it is also a very, you know, all these disorders are very serious, but it's not something that we can physically see most of the time, if that makes any sense. You know, some of these disorders, of course, have outward signs that people can pick up on, but a lot of these disorders is symptoms. It's internal. It's stuff that other people can't see, and it's hard to sometimes verbalize those internal symptoms, if that makes any sense. But yeah, anxiety, like I said, anxiety equals cancer for sure. And anxiety can last long after cancer is gone. You know, for the most part, you know, for it to be diagnosed with, you know, a generalized anxiety disorder, you have to be experiencing these symptoms for, I think, at least 6 months. So, and that's definitely plausible for people who have been through these traumatic experiences. You know, there's definitely a possibility that these feelings can stick with someone for the rest of their lives, you know, and affect their daily functioning. So I think that's pretty much it for anxiety. Next, I'll talk about depression. You know, depression and also kind of like adjustment disorder. Because, you know, adjustment disorder would more so, I guess, come first because, you know, you're going on with your life, your daily life, you're used to your routine, and then suddenly you have this big event happen, this stressor. You know, all of a sudden, you know, you have cancer, and that's kind of what happened to me. Definitely not, like I had said in previous videos, you know, I was doing my thing, you know, I was working full time, I was going to school, I'm doing graduate school full time. I was just fully in charge of my life, you know, making my own decisions, fully independent, and on my own. And then suddenly I got sick. And, you know, suddenly I had cancer, and it came out of nowhere. And so that was just a complete flip of my life. You know, it just flipped my life upside down, and I had to, you know, just change everything that I had going on in my life suddenly. You know, I went from being completely independent and taking care of myself to the next day being in the hospital and not having much control over what's going on. So it was a humongous adjustment. And then, you know, being in the hospital and receiving treatments, it messes with your whole body. You know, the chemo doesn't just mess with cancer cells, it messes with the good cells and messes with your electrolytes. I'm sure it messes with the chemicals in your brain, your serotonin, all that good stuff. It just, you know, it's a whole body experience for sure, getting, you know, chemo. And then I don't know how radiation is, or how surgeries are, how that affects your body, but I can imagine that it's a huge, you know, it does the same thing. It's a whole body change whenever you're going through these treatments. But with depression, you know, it's more than just, you know, people think depression, okay, well, they think you're feeling sad. And yes, you know, part of depression is absolutely having a depressed mood, you know, having feelings of sadness. But also, you know, depression, it really does affect your entire body. You know, being even like being separate, you know, from a cancer diagnosis, if there is a person who does not have cancer and has depression, it affects their entire body. And then I think, you know, personally, I would think that, you know, with depression and then also having cancer and going through cancer treatments, it just kind of like compounds all these issues that you are already having because of the cancer treatments. You know, for me personally with depression, it kind of started whenever I was whenever I was discharged from the first hospital, and it was particularly prominent whenever between. Oh, why is my computer doing this again? Okay, it's freeze. Oh my goodness. Hold on, guys. I'm going to restart this program. Okay, we are back in action. I think that my computer going wonky in the middle of all these vlogs is its way of telling me to stop being so long-winded, but guess what? It's not going to happen. Okay, so like I was saying about depression, I think I was saying that my depression symptoms started kind of creeping whenever I was being discharged from the first hospital, and then kind of until I was going for transplant. So that couple of months last summer, whenever I didn't really have much going on, is whenever I was kind of just starting to feel depressed. And the reason for it, I can see, you know, a clear reason why, and it's because, you know, my life was flipped upside down, and now that, you know, I'm out of the hospital and now that I'm in remission, I'm kind of just waiting. You know, I was like waiting to hear about a donor, waiting to hear if I can go for transplant, waiting, you know, to find out when that transplant will be, you know, waiting to see if I have to go and do consolidation chemo, you know, how many rounds of consolidation chemo am I going to have to do. You know, it's just blah, blah, waiting, one thing after the other. And that's hard, you know, it's hard not being in control of your life. And, you know, I wasn't working, you know, I wasn't working at the time because, you know, I couldn't really go back to work because I may have to go and do inpatient chemo for a week or two, you know, in a couple of weeks. And so it wasn't feasible for me to go back to work at that time. And that was really hard on me because, you know, I really enjoy my job, and, you know, I enjoy my coworkers, and I enjoy my clients, and I like interacting with them, and I like helping people. So it just was really hard to not have that, you know, 5 days a week. And also I had to withdraw from my master's program classes whenever I got sick, because obviously I wasn't able to do them, you know, whenever I was going through chemo treatments. There just would have been no way. It would have been a total disaster. So I didn't have that in my life at the time, and I wasn't, you know, really doing much of anything. I just was at home kind of just hanging out waiting. So it was just a major change, you know, from what I had before. I had a really busy schedule before, and now I have nothing going on. So I definitely did, you know, kind of start feeling a little bit depressed. But, you know, that kind of started to get better. The depression, you know, kind of got better once I found out that I had a perfect match donor, and once I found out that my transplant was gonna be September 22nd. You know, I had these goals and these good things, these definite good things in my life to look forward to. So that really helped give me focus. and it helped with the depression and kind of like just the sad symptoms and whatnot. But also, part of depression, like I had said, it's not just feeling sad. It's, loss of interest in your normal activities. Symptoms of depression can be insomnia, just, not able to sleep, which I definitely experienced that. And also it can be hypersomnia, which is sleeping too much. And again, I have definitely experienced that too. Like I had said, these are also, the insomnia, hypersomnia, things like that. Those are also symptoms of, chemo too. So like I had said before, these are just compounding on one another and making each other worse. And it's just a whole problem of symptoms. Also part of depression, it can be, it's called psychomotor retardation, but basically it means that you are just slow moving, and maybe even slow moving enough, whether it be actual physical movement or with speech, even enough that other people are noticing. And definitely I've noticed with myself, I'm slow moving now. I'm not able to get up off the floor and get up and go do things as quickly as I could before all of this happened. Also, part of it I'm sure is from being out of shape and not being able to exercise hard, and not, things like that, just because of being, short-winded and being tired and going through the whole, treatment process. It kind of disrupts any routine that you may have. So that's part of it, and also just, your muscles and your bones, like, they hurt, for some reason, they just hurt. So it can just cause you to be slow moving. Another one is fatigue, and I have absolutely, positively, no doubt about it, experienced fatigue, whether it's from depression or whether it's from results of chemo. And my computer is doing it again. No! Oh my goodness. It's like I'm just not meant to make this video or something. Okay, guys, hold on. Let me restart this one more time. Okay. Okay, fatigue. I'm going to try and make this quick because maybe my computer won't go wonky if I just hurry up and get this out. Okay, fatigue. Also, guilt and feeling like you're a burden. Those are, symptoms of depression. And definitely, I felt guilty about being sick, and I felt guilty about, worrying, like stressing my friends, my family out, and I felt like a burden on them. I felt like a burden on my caregivers, and it's not like that, and I know I shouldn't have felt like that, and they didn't feel like that, but it's just one of those things that it's kind of hard not to feel like that sometimes as a cancer patient. And especially, I'm so, like I said, I'm young, wasn't expected, I was independent, and then all of a sudden I have to not be independent. I am now dependent on these people to help me out, and that was just a huge adjustment, and it kind of took its toll a little bit, mentally. But as time goes on and as you get stronger and you feel yourself get stronger both physically and mentally, those feelings they'll lift. Concentration problems and indecisiveness are also symptoms of depression. Also, those come along with chemo. A lot, like I said, I'll say it again, I'll keep saying it over and over and over again, a lot of these also are from chemo, and it can just, if you have depression also, it's a hard time. But, there is help available. There's absolutely no shame in, speaking up about your troubles. Doctors almost expect it. That's kind of what I've experienced. The doctors always, if I talk to them about my issues that I'm having, they always assure, that's expected. whole thing that's happened, this, cancer is traumatic. It's traumatic on your body, it's traumatic on your, like, um, your mental state, and it's hard. And it's okay to, it's okay to need help. There's no shame in that whatsoever. So, there's tons of medications nowadays that can help. If the first one you try doesn't help, try another one and keep trying until you find one that works for you. And that's totally, it's totally fine. It may take some time, but it's worth it. It's worth it to feel good and to feel better. And also there's therapy available to people. If you want to talk about, what you're going through, there's therapists available. There's individual therapists, so you can talk to someone one-on-one, or you can go to group counseling and talk to, other people about it. There are support groups who are just awesome. And so, there's just all kinds of resources available to help. And I think that's awesome. And I'm really glad to see that. And especially, whenever we're going through these really hard times in our life, we need all the support that we can get. So that's depression. Also with depression, I noted that, some people may experience weight loss or weight gain. And I can also, of course, with cancer, those can happen as well. Food's kind of a weird thing, whenever you're going through the whole cancer process. Sometimes food is wonderful, and sometimes food is disgusting. So, but that's just another symptom of depression that some people may experience. And also another very serious symptom of depression that most people know about, but it's, thoughts, like recurrent thoughts of death, suicidal ideation, maybe a suicidal attempt, or, having specific plan set up for committing suicide. And absolutely positively, if you are feeling any of those things, please speak up and please ask for help, because there are so many people who are there to help. So please, 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 you are not alone, and please reach out for help if you are feeling any of those things. With cancer, of course, it's hard not to think of cancer as a death sentence, because that's just, it's kind of almost, I don't want to say ingrained in our culture, but we all know how serious cancer is. But cancer is not a death sentence, not in every single case. So, it's hard not to think about death at some point, throughout the cancer process and cancer, treatment process and everything. But if you're thinking about death in a very serious matter, thinking about your own death, thinking about wanting to die, whatever it may be like that, please get help. Please, like I said, there's no shame in any of these things. Please just reach out and get help. And okay, so I think that's pretty much it for depression. I can see how self-esteem issues can be a big thing for people going through cancer, both female and male. Cancer, it can affect your whole entire body. These treatments can cause, like I said, weight loss or weight gain. Of course, you lose your hair. And that's a huge thing, for some people. It's hard, it's hard to lose your hair, because it's just such an overt sign that you are sick. But of course, there's like little caps available, like I usually wear, and there's wigs available, or some people, going just bald. That's fine, it's beautiful. You should not be ashamed of yourself, and you're fighting a huge fight, and you're gonna kick butt. So you should be, proud of that, and absolutely just, you're a warrior and you're strong, so you should embrace it, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, self-esteem issues, it can be hard. Also, substance abuse is something that I could definitely see happening, with people. Um, kind of as cancer patients, we are given medication for everything. Everything, we we are, whenever the nurses come in the morning, they give us a whole cup full of medicine, and it's basically like you're taking your breakfast. It's like breakfast. It's a whole handful of pills. It's just how we are almost like programmed to think is, okay, so I have this going on, so I need to get a medicine for it. Why is this happening? This computer, I swear. Okay, substance abuse, like I was trying to say, it's just definitely something that is a real risk. We're given medicines to treat everything. Some of these medicines they give are really high power medicines. It's not uncommon to be given, opioids for pain, painkillers. It's not uncommon to be given, benzodiazepines. It's not uncommon to be given like just various kinds of, depression and anxiety and pain medicine, like of any kind. So, of course, a lot of those medicines have a very real threat of addiction, I guess you could say. So it's just something to definitely be careful of and be aware of each medicine you take, and to kind of also, be aware of yourself and how you are, and aware of your family history. And, I know that sounds kind of silly, and those things aren't a guarantee that you're going to have substance problems. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say that, just be aware of it, I guess. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone, because that's not my goal. My goal is just to, I want people to be aware of the medicines they're taking, because sometimes, we're not really told much about the medicines. They're just like, okay, here's this pill, it will help with nausea, but this pill, also it might, have X, Y, and Z associated with it, and we don't know that. So just, educate yourself, and don't ever be afraid to ask questions, I guess is what I'm, really trying to say. And then also just, like I had said, pain in general. Pain is not a mental disorder, but, if you are in chronic pain, that can cause, it can cause you to just feel terrible, but, obviously physically and mentally. Pain is a terrible thing, and it's just something to be aware of. And, I think maybe that could be why a lot of people have substance abuse problems whenever they're going through, cancer treatments and afterwards, because these pain medicines out there today are just so addictive, and it's really scary, but they're there to help, but it's just, I don't know how to. I'm trying not to get like, too crazy or too soapbox-ish or too political or anything about all of this, but just, medicines are there to help, but also medicines can be scary, as we all know. So just be careful, but also don't be afraid to ask for help. It's kind of a, you know, double-edged sword almost. If I don't know if that's the right expression or not. I'm sorry. My brain is just terrible. My chemo brain, as I say. But okay, I'll wrap it up here, since my computer has gone wonky at least 57 times, and I'm sure this is gonna be another long-winded video. So I hope this has been informational, informative, and I hope that, if anyone out there is feeling any of these things, I just hope you realize you're not alone, and I hope you realize that it's okay to speak up and there's no shame in it, and people want to help. So if there's anything that I can, do, or any questions you may have, just, please let me know. I have no idea what my next vlog is going to be about. I haven't really figured it out yet, but here soon I will put out another vlog, I should say, about something, about me, rambling on and on and on about something. So in the meantime, just, be healthy, and if, like I said, if you have any troubles like what's been talked about in this video, please don't be afraid to get help. See you later.